Engineer. I would like to open up the Board of Trustees meeting for January 7th, 2025. Everyone will still please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with the reorg. This is where we appoint people for this new year coming in. So I will start with the two trustees who ran and won their elections, Trustee McAndrews and Trustee Mitchell. What we'll do is we'll wait till the end and we'll do all the swearing in at one time, if you haven't already been sworn in for this year. And then, well, after that, sometime but we'll do all the swearing in at one time. Appointment of Deputy Mayor will be Trustee Blomquist. Appointment of Village Clerk Treasurer, Jennifer Diorgi. Mayor. Appointment of Deputy Village Clerk Treasurer, Michelle. What's that? Right. Designation of trustee liaisons to village departments. We have for this year, for Deputy Mayor Blomquist, the Police Department and the Clerk's Office. Trustee McAndrews, Fire Department and Parks. Trustee Mitchell, Building Department, Justice Court and Chamber of Commerce. Trustee Wright, DPW, Community Center and Land Use Board. Those are the liaisons for this year. Appointment of village attorney, as we have done, we're going to appoint a firm of, okay, so we will appoint Lino Sharetta. And the firm,
The firm special counsel, it's on the village attorney, and the firm is, class, and they're on the same.
so we don't appoint associates. Okay.
It research is, like, the fact that we have anyone.
Right. So blatantly flat, right. Appointment of village assessor consultant, Brian Kenny.
Associate Justice,
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Appointment of associate village justice, that is going to be, Spencer, right? Yeah. Heidi Spencer. Appointment of village engineer, Bart Rhodey. Appointment of registrar of vital statistics, Jennifer. Appointment of deputy registrar of vital statistics, Michelle. We don't, yeah, we will. I got it. Appointment of members of the planning board. For planning, I am appointing the following. Jerry Washaw, reappointing for a 5-year term to expire on January 1st, 2030. Alternate for 1 year, Mary Kirby, expiring on January 1st of 26. Alternate David Christensen, 1 year, expiring on January 1st, 26. Chair of the Planning Board, David Levy, for 1 year, to expire January 1st of 26. The Zoning Board of Appeals, I'm appointing Kevin Timoni as a full member, 5-year term expiring January 1st, 2030. Then I have an alternate, Rochelle Spooner, for 1 year, expiring January 1st, 2026. And then another alternate, Molly McQueen, for 1 year, expiring January 1st, 2026. And the chair of the zoning board, Lucia Wright, for 1 year, expiring January 1st, 2026. Flood administrator, appointing Charlie Schaub. Appointment of chair of the, appointment of harbor master, Dan Goswick. Appointment of chair of the Parks Commission, Dan Sherman. Appointment of the Waterfront Resiliency Commission. Do you have the list?
I do. Our Commissioner for Science and Strategy, Klaus Jacobs, our Commissioner for Emergency Management, Dan Goswick, our Commissioner for Funding and Development, Sylvia Welch, Commissioner for Land Use Planning, Rod Johnson, and Commissioner for Outreach and Education, Mark Silverstein.
Okay. And then appointment of chair of the Waterfront Resiliency Commission. I assume you'd like to be chair again?
I am
Okay, there you go. Nate Mitchell. Designation of official newspaper, the Journal News and the Rockland County Times. Designation of official depositories, M&T Bank, New York Glass, and Connect One Bank. Designation of legal notice posting locations. The following: Village of Piermont Village Hall, Canzona's Market, the Railroad Station, the Landing, Piermont Post Office, M&T Bank, Eleanor Stroud Skating Pond, official village website, and official village Facebook page. Designation of schedule of Board of Trustee meetings, 1 meeting per month on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Village Hall.
We don't do the first one, announce it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth.
Well, generally it's the second, but generally the second Tuesday of every month. Although in January, we will have 2 meetings. Set the number of file-out spots as per the recommendation of the Transportation Committee. They recommended 175 file-out spots.
I have a question about that. In the village code, the inventory is identified as being off-street parking. So 21068.1E1, establishing the number of off-street parking spaces available for throughout the village for the following year. Is this inventory of 175 off-street parking, or does this include on-street parking?
I would have to, the actual number of 175, I believe it does not include on-street parking. I would have to get the official word, because they came up with, and Margaret worked on it,
I don't remember.
and, I mean, they came up with a grand total of over 450 spots. So, that's a combination of parking, lots. So,
I'm not sure.
I can get a breakdown of how they figured that. But it, again, it was all done with the Transportation Committee. This is what they recommended. So,
I'd just like to confirm that we are actually talking about off-street parking spaces. We're not encroaching on on-street parking spaces.
okay, well, so let's set that for the next meeting.
Thank you.
I'll add that to that.
Okay? And then finally, annual resolutions. We do an annual review of adoption of the village policies as follows: procurement policy, workplace violence, sexual harassment and diversity training policies, disaster preparedness emergency policy, bloodborne pathogens, employee layoff, staff reduction procedure, ASCOM policy, social media policy. Okay, so does someone someone want to make a motion to accept these appointments?
I'll make that motion with the stipulation of 25, set off the next meeting.
26.
When-
The bylaw?
Follow us.
25.
All right, so the bylaw issue.
Yes.
Is that okay? All in favor? Oh, somebody want to second that?
I think so.
He made the motion. Mike second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so everyone who was appointed tonight, would stand up and raise your right hand. That's what I had in here. All right, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dan Sherman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
state your
our
position, according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
So if any person has been sworn in, if they can come up and sign.
We get more press for that than say my brother jumped off the bridge.
What happened to the second duck, Dan?
I don't know, I never called you back. What is?
Okay,
So sworn in, not sworn in.
we now move on to the general business of the night. Line item number 28, approval of minutes from December 10th, 2024. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes? Maybe it's not here yet. Someone make a motion for the minutes approved?
Did we approve the minutes?
I make a motion to,
A second.
oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Nate abstains.
And one. Approval of warrant. You're the one.
I move that we approve warrant number 010725 in the amount of $121,582.67.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, we have a presentation of the May 31st, 2024 financial audit by Donnelly Garrard, CPA of Garrard and Associates, CPA PC. Welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah.
All right, so tonight we're here to give a high-level overview of the financial statements. If somebody needs to see the full 64-page report,
It'll be
So this is the presentation for the May 24 financial statements. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which is the equivalent to what we call a clean opinion for the year. I do want to take some time to thank the staff for all the help that they did in preparing the audit and making it a smooth process. Overall, for the year, the general fund had a gain of $326,000. They authorized a transfer to the capital projects fund of $292,000 to fund some of the projects you're working on, which brought the year almost to a break even, about a $32,000 profit for the year. And we'll look at some of the details on that in a little bit. Overall, the revenues for the year were over budget by $745,000. That is mostly due to some additional grants that came in of $575,000, and investment income was a lot higher than budgeted due to the higher rates for the past year. For the expenditures, we're initially showing that we went over budget by $349,000. However, included in those are the expenditures on that $575,000 of additional grants. So in reality, your regular budget was actually underspent by $225,000, offsetting the additional expenses due to the grants. You had for the year budgeted a $241,000 loss that was going to be funded with reserves, and you actually came in with that $34,000 profit. The general fund at the end of the year had an unreserved balance of $2.1 million. Of that, you allocated $236,000 to balance your May 25 budget. So your May 25 budget actually had a loss of $236,000 to be funded with these reserve funds. That leaves you a remaining unassigned balance of $1.9 million. I do want to put a perspective on that. $1.9 million sounds like a lot of money, but in reality, that's only about 3 months worth of expenses, so you don't have a very large reserve when you look at it from that point of view. It's probably the minimum that we would recommend in reserves. We tend to like to see a little bit more, toward 6 months, or it's hard to get much more than that. But you're still healthy and you're looking good with $1.9 million in reserves. Activities for the year in terms of debt, you did borrow an additional $435,000 that was used for garbage trucks, some fire and police equipment, and village hall improvements. You got no new bond debt. You did pay down $217,000, and the remaining balance is $2,260,000. The financial statements are actually a little bit complicated within all these numbers that are in here, and there's actually 2 sets of financial statements. There's one that's on the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which we call the GASB version. The GASB version is a required accounting point of view, and what it does is it's full accrual, so it is capitalizing your assets and depreciating them, more like a business than a governmental type presentation. It also shows your debts as liabilities, the payments reduce the liability, and what it also does, which is a little unusual, is it takes the actuarial present value of all your future obligations, such as your medical premiums that you pay on for your employees, as well as pensions and LOSAP payments for as long as people are alive, brought forward present value. So it actually ends up giving a fairly distorted view, because we're picking up a lot of future liabilities and not picking up the income that you're going to be making over the years to offset it. So I'm going to only spend a couple of minutes on there, but it is contained within the financial statements as a required presentation. But I'm only going to spend a few seconds on it, because you'll see when we just look at the numbers that they are a distorted point of view. Most of the financial statements are on what we call a fund basis. The fund basis is actually tracking them more on a cash basis. So it picks up revenue as you receive it, it's picking up expenses as you pay it. which is actually much more of a fiscal responsibility basis. It's how the village creates its budget. Its budget is based on what you would anticipate to come in for the year and what you anticipate coming out for the year. So some of the big differences are, for example, if you were to buy a truck, on the fund basis, you're paying for it. This year, we show the whole truck as an expense. On that GASB basis, we would capitalize that and probably write it off over 5 or 7 years, and it gives a kind of a more distorted view. So the fund basis is a little bit better. And also, for your debt, you have to pay the principal. It's just like at home, when you're paying the principal, your mortgage payments, you budget with the mortgage payment, it's not just the interest portion. So it gives a much clearer picture. And it also is the presentation that the Uniform System of Accounts, as prescribed by the State of New York's controller, also does. We do an annual fiscal report to the state, also based on this fund basis, which is the way the State of New York does. So it's kind of important to understand because the differences, when we look at these numbers, are fairly significant. The one we really want to focus on is this fund basis. Anybody have any questions on that? It's a little blurry sometimes. All right, so the next 2 pages are this GASB accrual basis. Again, just in 30 seconds, we can see here that there's assets here of $10 million, and the difference we'll see is we see these capital assets net of depreciation has $5 million in there. The liabilities, there's like 18 million here, and when we offset your assets and the liabilities, you end up with a negative net position of 8 million and an unrestricted of 12 million. And we can really see what's generating that. This is not really a true picture of where you're at today. It's a kind of an artificial potential liabilities. I look at it almost as if you went out of business today, what would you need to pay off your debts or find some other way. It's not really your true method. Over on the left-hand side, just so you can understand the impact, is what we call the OPEB, other post-employee benefits. This is your medical insurance premiums that you pay on your current employees, your retirees, and for their lifetime, we took the present value of that, you'd need $8 million. That's not a current liability that you have today. That's something that you will owe over the remaining lifetime of all the current retirees. Same thing with the length of service award. That's the LOSAP program for the firemen. That also has got the $3 million present value. Again, not a liability that you have to pay up today. And those are the 2 big numbers here. Is a little over $11 million of liabilities that doesn't really exist. So, but this is a required presentation. The next page, again, just to show how this distorts the financial statements. We're showing here at the very bottom an actual loss for the year of $500,000, but just to pick one number that's generating that, the last expense is called depreciation of $587,000. That's not really a cash expense, that's a book expense of assets that you bought over history over the last amount of years. If we were to back out that depreciation, we almost have that small profit that we were just talking about that we're going to look at the fund basis. So, when you look at these financials, don't focus on these GASB statements. They're here as a required presentation, but they're not really the numbers you want to focus on. Let's look at the fund basis statements, which are really where we want to be. The next page is your balance sheet, and this shows us your assets that we're showing on the books, plus the current liabilities with your fund balance, net balance. And if we can focus, you actually have 2 funds, and we track the village's activities on the general fund, which is your operating village-wide fund. And then we track capital projects separately, because capital projects are usually long-term, they cross over years, they're not all within one period, and they're not really operational. They're one-time things that you're doing, and we track the income and expenses for them in a separate fund because they're really not for operational purposes. But if we look at that total government funds, you have total assets here of $5 million, most of which is there's 2.5 sitting in your various bank accounts, and you have about 1.8 million sitting in the LOSAP fund, which is the fireman's fund. Little bit of receivables here. And the liability side is about 1.4 million. Most of it is your everyday accounts payables. There is some short-term bond anticipation notes of 727,000. And that brings us to the total fund balance, the second line from the bottom, of 3.6 million. Of that 3.6 million, 1,000,008 of that is not available for the village operations. It's the LoSAP money, so that's carved out separately here. We have, of that amount, you have authorized 236,000 to fund your 25 budget. That leaves you 1.5 million here in the total village-wide funds, and 1.9 if you just look at the general fund. Again, that's running around 3 months, maybe a little over 3 months worth of expenses in reserve. So showing a fairly healthy picture. Any questions? All right, the next page, this is a summary of the general fund's income and expenses as compared to the budget that was approved. The middle column is the actual. So your actual, you had total revenues this year of $7,388,000. Your largest revenue source here is the real property taxes, which is about $5 million of that. The expenditures were $7 million. The difference between the revenue and the expenses is $326,000. Of that, you authorized $292,000 to spend toward your capital projects that you had approved, giving you almost a break-even year of the $34,000 that we spoke of before. Let's just look at how that compared to your budget. You had actually budgeted $6.6 million in revenues. It came in at $7.3 million. So you're actually $745,000 more than you had budgeted. But with a little analysis, and if we kind of work our way up from the bottom, the state and local aid, you brought in additional grants here that you had budgeted for by $400,000. And I'll tell you what those mostly were in a second. And the federal aid money was $169,000. Going up one more line, that miscellaneous line, that 117, most of that is the LoSAP revenue, the change in the LoSAP accounts that is really just earnings, interest earnings that it generated for the year, and a couple of lines up. That use of money is in interest earnings that you earned. You had budgeted 90, it came in at 198,000. So again, last year was a good year with the interest rates. New York class was doing over 5%, which generated some nice interest. So those grant monies that came in, if we look at these expenditures, you're going to see most of these line items running a little over budget, but if we really analyze that, if we look at that general government support, included in there is about $98,000 of ARPA grant money, which was federal grant money back from COVID that you spent on the community center. You also had a justice court grant of about $16,000, and you had a comprehensive plan grant of $100,000. So if we took those grant monies out, you actually underspent on those general government funds. Your public safety looks 114 over budget, but included in those expenses is 116,000 for the train station grant. So you actually broke even on that. The transportation line, there's some drainage grants in there that is the cause of the overage there. And under cultural and rec, we have the Half Moon Park grant, which was $61,000. So if we accounted for those grants, you can see that you actually underspent on almost all the line items. Any questions here? All right, the last thing just to point out, because it's always good to get a feel for what your debt is. Your outstanding band balance, which is 1 year debt service, that's $727,000. The long-term debts that you have, you only have 3 bonds left that total $2,260,000, and the first one for $540,000. Remaining balance expires in 2035, so that's what we got about 11 years left. And the other 2 expire in 2041, so in about 16 years or so you'll be done with those. Won't be think that, overall, I think the village is in a healthy spot. And if anybody has any questions? Okay.
All right, so, a couple comments. We checked today on our S&P global rating, and we are still being classified as a AA plus by S&P, which is one step below their highest rating.
Excellent.
Recently, a question came up about why we dropped Moody's we used to get rated by both S&P and Moody's, and Jennifer can explain why we dropped Moody's, about a year ago or so.
Yeah, last year I received an email that Moody's is now charging $3,500 was their baseline fee to rate the village. I was told by our financial advisor, Beth Ferguson of Fiscal Advisors, we used to use both ratings because the village had such bad credit and had no money. So they used both ratings to see who would come out better when we go out to finance. But now that we're at a AA plus, one smidgen below the highest you can go, it's no longer necessary in her eyes. So she suggested that we don't spend $3,500 a year to have them tell us that we're AA plus, to just go with Standard & Poor's, and that's why we dropped the Moody's rating at the advice of our financial advisor, who does all of our capital financing.
The last thing is that there are still some people in this room who think that since before I took office in 2018, that the financials from 2017 versus the financials certainly through the end of last year, that this village lost $8 million. Can you explain the whole change in how the state changed to how the GASB is reported? I believe it was 2018 when they made that change.
Yeah, I think that's impacted part of why I went through all that extra time effort to show that GASB conversion, which is really an accounting requirement, is not really used by any governmental agency. And it's what happened when they did that is they decided that they thought it was important to put debt on the books that doesn't really exist. And that's what that OPEB $8 million and that LoSAP of $3 million are may be future liabilities and may deserve to be shown, but that presentation doesn't give you a true current picture of how you operate the village. That is as if you were a fire sale and what you would need to close the village down. But you're an operating village. You're going to be generating revenue over the next 30, 40 years that it's going to take to pay that off, and you'll be paying it off over time. So that's why I spent a little bit of time to make sure that we looked at that little box and see that those things that they're making us now pick up on that basis doesn't really apply. And if you look at these financial statements, that GASB is only 2 pages. All the other 20 pages of financial numbers are all the important fund basis statements. And those are the ones that you should really be focusing on when you're looking at operating the village on a year-to-year basis. The same as you do the same that you do for your budget, and the way the state of New York looks at it. The state of New York does not look at that GASB statement basis. They only use that fund basis on their annual reports.
And apparently S&P as well.
And S&P as well.
Okay.
Well, S&P will look at the other ones, but they understand
Right.
that those are artificial future liabilities and how to discount that in their minds. Every governmental agency, when you look at GASB, there's nobody that has a positive fund balance that way, because you're picking up all the future liabilities, but you're not picking up all the future income. And so it gives it that distorted view. But, and when we're doing several towns and probably a half a dozen villages, and everybody has a negative balance on that.
I have a quick question. And this might be, you can give me this simple version if needed. How is the LoSAP calculated?
So the LoSAP program, there's a summary in here, that when, your firemen are volunteers, but there's a program in here that if they meet a certain length of service, that they get a small monthly stipend when they retire or reach a certain age. So you actually hire a actuary who takes all your firemen and retirees who are collecting, plus your current retirees with estimated retirement dates, and how much they will be paid out for the rest of their estimated lifetime, calculates that all the way out, and then present values it, and it came in at 3.3 million, something like that.
Okay. So it's an approximation,
It's
because we don't know.
Every year we see that swing, because this year they may have used a future interest rate of 3.5%. And next year maybe they'll use 2%, and the numbers will just sway.
Okay.
There's a question
Yes.
On the LoSAP, we own, once we reach past entitlement after 55, there's a 10-year cap on it. It's not your lifetime, it's a 10-year cap.
Excellent clarity.
Your pension for your retirement goes your lifetime. But your past entitlement only goes 10 years,
10 years.
okay?
Okay.
So if after 10 years, I'm getting an extra $2,400 a year, and it ends there,
Perfect. So I'm sure the actuary did that
okay?
for
Just wanted to
current
clarify
retirement,
that.
but thank you, that's a nice clarification. Yes.
I don't know if there's an easy way, but maybe it's worth it if it's not even easy to create some sort of document for the public to see how the budget, how the reserves have changed or stayed about the same year over year, perhaps for the last 10 years, so that it can be shown that in 2015, this is what the village had in reserve, this is what the expenses were, and just like compare.
So bear with me, I'm trying to print here. So requesting consideration for the Transportation Committee to become a body of appointed members, adding an official agenda and meeting minutes posted to the village website and the official locations within the village for the purpose that its power impacts important issues such as the village's comprehensive plan, private landowners with public use land, and a more public-facing meeting agenda and minutes would allow appointed members with related experience to create more informed parking, safety, transportation, planning, and execution. As Piermont grows, this committee grows into more of a commission, like other towns and villages with successful and safe transportation. As the Transportation Committee is now, the trustees and residents don't really have access to the meeting contents of what's spoken about, so it sort of becomes that telephone thing. Well, I hear this is happening, and then it just, Second is village government communication. So requesting consideration that official village notices be publicized in a clear and up-to-date method on the website and physical locations. Several important notices in November and December were posted to Facebook, social media, between the hours of 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. The timing of posts and social media pose ineffective communication left up to an algorithm, and the reality that not all residents are on social media. Moving on to Piermont Avenue at Gare Street. The Trattoria has requested that the 15-minute parking spot to be changed to 2 hours. And I'm requesting that there's no parking in that spot or the spot in front of Flower Power. The street juts out. Let me go back to this because I'll go off here. spanning into that spot and spanning to include in front of Flower Path. The roadway is considerably more narrow and with an incline traveling north, a limited sight line. So parking in front of these two businesses increases the danger to public safety, to drivers and pedestrians, and that they are truck deliveries, so we have linens, we have provisions, we have equipment, repair. If that can move to Gare Street, because then it's a spot and then it's double parking for the truck, and then we're all into the oncoming traffic with the new buses coming in the direction. And then the last is, so traffic police at the crosswalk of Piermont Avenue and Gare Street, with the volume of U-turns in that area, the delivery trucks, for Riley's and Trattoria, the speeding, requesting that the board consider placing traffic police during the busy weekends and seasonal times, spring, summer, and fall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one more.
Yeah.
And with the growth and the speed of the growth and development, I'm going to request a moratorium, then the comp plan, and then zoning in that order. I don't really know how that all works. I just want to say that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, John Savage. Yeah, state your name and your address, please.
Sure. All the way over here. Walking in front of the fireman squad. John Savage, 130 Crescent. I'm here tonight. I wanted to request a couple of things from the board and for your consideration. First of all, we had a lot of appointments tonight to various committees, commissions. I'm not exactly sure what the difference. There is one that was noticeably absent, to me at least, given the current conversations that are going on, is the Architectural Review Board that is authorized by the Village Code. I think it's chapter 4, but I'm sure I can figure out the details. I do think it's time that board was instituted and made available as a resource to the trustees and to the planning commission. So that would be number one, that it's time to investigate what it would take to stand that up and get it in place as a resource. The other thing, it sounds like you're already on top of it, so there's probably not much more to say, but unfortunately the way the opposition to some of the zoning things happened over the summer has resulted in a vacuum of zoning laws for the business district. We've already seen developers eager to step into that vacuum, and we do need to now really move very quickly to get something back in place. Obviously, the Business B and the CPM weren't perfect, but they were more than what we have now. Hopefully, very quickly after this meeting on the 20th, we'll move forward with a new comprehensive plan, because we desperately need those restrictions back in place that were forced out as a result of the lawsuit. So those are my two requests. Let's move quickly on the comprehensive plan. Let's get an architectural review board in place to serve as a plan.
Thank you. Margaret? Grace?
Come up to my speaker. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm here, I attended to the meeting with the village's consultant when you all worked on the zoning, which was very helpful. And obviously we've all been following this, and I'm back again to ask that you consider having a moratorium on accepting and reviewing proposals for development in the business district until the comprehensive plan is complete and you feel satisfactorily about the outcome of the discussions of where that zone is going to go and what it's going to be. I think all of us here were like, when we saw that Otto's property is now up for sale. It's just another thing that makes us worry about how the village, what the village is going to be like. And we have a lot of reasons to have a moratorium after what this village has been through and what it's currently going through that I think are undisputable. And I think moratorium on accepting or reviewing applications in the Business B district or is completely appropriate. So I encourage you to consider doing that. And that's it.
You're saying until the comprehensive plan
No,
is adopted?
until there is the time you need, and it might be because once the comprehensive plan is adopted, there's still there's a lot to discuss. I mean, about the future of that area, including the comprehensive plan. You have the flooding issues to discuss. You have other areas in the village. You have possible retreat of parts of downtown. I mean, there's a lot to discuss, and I think the village needs to buy itself some time to do this. And there will always be people knocking at the door to participate in the fabulousness of doing business here in the village and living and being here. So I don't think we're going to lose our customers by taking time to properly redo the zoning and prepare for the future. So that's my question.
State the name and address.
Old Dennis Harding, 21 Piermont Street. First, want to congratulate the newly elected trustees and all the appointed appointees. Really, it's great that we have many people willing to serve the village. I will say, if there's anyone who's going to get any money out of Congressman Lawler, Danny Goswick will get money out of him, absolutely. So I'm here to bring up, I was here a month ago, Mayor, we talked about the fence, and I had initially submitted an application to appear before the ZBA, been bouncing back and forth. I really would like to get before the ZBA to have the ZBA rule on the building inspector's determination that allowed the fence, which I think we presented our information that we believe it is not to code. And then 3 weeks after we submitted our application on October 17th, I received a 19-page application for a site plan or building permit. I'm not asking for a building permit. I'm not asking for a site plan. I'm merely asking to appear before the ZBA to rule on the determination. So I'd really like to get that scheduled. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Shulin.
Hi, I'm Barbara Shulin. I live at 229 Hudson Terrace. And I have just given a letter to all members of the board. I write this as a concerned member of the Piermont community. Tonight we swore in 2 trustees who are elected by our friends and neighbors. This evening should be a celebration. Instead, it is the time of great apprehension as one of the people duly elected has already shown that he's been willing to betray his oath rather than serve the best interest of the people of Piermont. There are 5 members on our board. Each member has a voice. Each member has a vote. It is the responsibility of the board members to share, in open meetings, concerns that they have about village issues and vote accordingly. It was surprising to see, in his own words, that Mr. Mitchell betrayed the board and members of this community by supporting litigation against the village. He knew about the lawsuit. He participated in its creation. It then cost our taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars. In addition, in his own words, Mr. Mitchell has shown a lack of respect for other members of the board, village employees, and dedicated volunteers who serve the village on various committees. Mr. Mitchell has suggested that many of these people be replaced, one of them by the husband of a litigant in the lawsuit. In the spirit of open communication, I would urge the board to include the results of the investigation of Mr. Mitchell's behavior on the village website. Mr. Mitchell has, in the past, made many valuable contributions to this village. In the spirit of doing what is best for the village, I would urge Mr. Mitchell to use his position as a member of the board to serve the best interests of the people of Piermont rather than as a tool for personal vendettas. If he is unable or willing to do this, I would ask that he resign. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivania,
Margaret Grace actually said what I was going to say more articulately, so.
you want to add anything?
No, but,
You sure?
yeah.
Okay. I would like to respond to some of those comments. Nina, possibly two of those comments that came over at 3 in the morning were because I was in Japan and they were 14 hours ahead, and when I sent the notice of Christmas greetings, Christmas holiday greetings, I should say, and New Year's greetings, I think it ended up coming out at 2, 3 in the morning here, because it was whatever, my afternoon or whatever. We're not aware of other posts on the village Facebook page that are being done. I don't think anyone here is up at 3 or 4 in the morning to put those posts on.
One of them was the pier, and it was the notification that the pier was, the end of the pier was going to be closed, and that was the 12 a.m. one. I can't recall the 3 and the 4 a.m. one. I was going to print it out. I could send it to you just to show you what it is for curiosity if you're interested.
Yeah.
But it was the pier. It was 12 a.m. 12 a.m. the night before Thanksgiving, Wednesday night, 12 a.m.
Oh, I don't know who could have posted that.
I don't know if you have somebody scheduling it or.
No,
Are you sure that's?
I don't even know how to schedule.
Link up to that
Took
post?
screenshots, I'll send them, just so you know.
But
what's
along those same lines, it is our intention this year to expand on our GoGov app, any announcements, not only emergency announcements, but to expand typical village announcements. And that's why we also want to get out the word again to new residents, and anytime anyone comes to the clerk's office, we tell them about the GoGov app. Very important that and so we'll put out a notice about that again as well. Try to get on that, because we are going to try to expand using that. That seems to be a good tool for announcements. Dennis.
Yes.
After last time, I did look into your request. I was told that the zoning and planning clerk did give you explicit instructions on how to proceed with getting in front of the ZBA, and he has not heard back from you.
As I mentioned, he submitted to me a 19-page application for a site plan or building permit. I'm not asking for a site plan, I'm not asking for a building permit. I'm just asking to appear before the ZBA to make a determination on the building inspector's decision that allowed the fence. That's all.
He also told me that an attorney did speak to your attorney.
Yes,
and
it's going back and forth.
But, so you want me to intervene in the ZBA planning and zoning issue, that it's a separate entity? You were mayor, that's not something that.
It's part of the village government, and
ZBA is a separate.
I understand, but I'm trying to appear before the ZBA.
Well, I would suggest that you just follow his instructions. If you want to get before the ZBA, I don't know.
I'm not asking for a building permit. That's what he submitted to me, a building permit application and site plan application. I'm not asking for that.
And frankly, it has been involved in this, because again, the council dealing with that, but I know the application, because we've had other interpretations before the zoning board, and there is an application that comes in and it says that you're seeking interpretation and determination from the building inspector, but it's in the application, and I'm just speaking of past practice, when other applications have come through, there's an application or a cover letter that says what you're appealing from, and it basically states, you put your application, you sign, you pay whatever the fee is, and then you state what the interpretation that you're seeking from the zoning board, that you're disagreeing with the building inspector. So Again, it's in the application, so again, I can't speak, because I didn't speak to your lawyer or the village's attorney that's dealing with this, you know, with respect to the zoning board. But I know the application does have if I recall, it does have something that has to do with zoning interpretation. So if that's what you're seeking, that's the relief you're seeking, that's what you can fill out, that will get submitted to Christian Catania at the building department, and then they will process that application.
I will follow up with Jeff Ford, and hopefully I won't have to come back next month.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen them before the zoning board, so the interpretations, but it sounds like that's what you're doing, and I can't speak because I haven't seen your application, but that's what I'm assuming you're looking at. But if you look at that application, I would cross out area variances because it doesn't apply to you, your site plan doesn't apply to you. You're basically seeking, you know, an interpretation or an determination by the building inspector. That's basically what I would.
All right, we'll review it.
I mean, the other thing he mentioned to me was if it was something you want to go to planning, that's something that they can be done informally without having, you know, you wanted an informal, but ZBA is different. ZBA is.
ZBA under state law is quasi-judicial, so it's separate. It's not like the planning board or your village board. It's a separate body. Statutorily, they have certain issues that they look at. It's the area variances, use variances, or interpretations. That's what the state code says. That's what they're limited to. That's their jurisdiction, and it's, you know, it's an appellate jurisdiction, you know, when it comes to, you know, interpretation.
All right. And then the last comment I want to make to John regarding the architectural review board. Yeah, I mean, I'm aware it's on our code but there hasn't been one, what I was told, for probably 30 years. I just do want to say that in the CBM, the proposal CBM zone, there is provision put in there calling for architectural review. A requirement for architectural review. With Business B right now, there is no requirement. So, just wanted to mention that as well.
Just another point to that, so since I've been here living in the village, there's been no, like I said, AARB or AHRB. The planning board has de facto served as the architectural board because applications have come before and they discussed, they've sat in many of those meetings, they discussed architecture in addition to site plan elements. So I don't know why there's no ARB in the village, but I know, as the mayor said, it's been that way for years. But the planning board has entertained those elements again. But in other places like where I do this, there is an ARB board that does the architectural.
Bruce, could I just clarify something? The village never had an architectural review board. It had an architectural review commission. Yeah, but not a board. So it was simply advisory to the village board and the other land use boards.
Yeah, I will clarify, it was there when I was mayor. The architectural review commission.
I heard it didn't last that long. I think they had one meeting is what I was told. But, no, but there's no doubt that we need something like that. All right, let's move on. Item number 35, continuation of discussion regarding a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers in the village of Piermont. This was started by some of our residents that approached me and asked that the village ban gas-powered leaf blowers. I've done a bunch of research on it. I talked to the head of our DPW, talked to other villages, mayors. What seems to make the most sense for me, I am for doing some sort of a ban. What seems to make the most sense based on what I'm talking to other mayors, the mayor of Nyack, the mayor of Hastings, they said that they are having issues for spring cleanups and for fall cleanups using electric blowers. That the technology, according to them, the technology is still not good enough to do that. So what I would like to see is starting off with, for this year, a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers May 1st to September 30th. And do a test and see how that works out. I can tell you Nyack, they did a year-round ban, but the Mayor John Rand told me that, I think it was done before he became mayor, and he is now looking into redoing that and just making it a similar, like a summer ban, because they are having these issues. Hastings, they banned it from the beginning of the year to about September 30th, but for fall, they allow gas powered. So, it seems to be that a lot of these villages are testing it, seeing how it works out. Obviously the summer is the worst time because people have the windows open, and they are extremely noisy. The gas powered, not to mention the environmental aspects of them. There's also a bill in the New York State Senate that is being worked on. I've forwarded this to some of the residents. They are looking to do a statewide ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. However, what's interesting is they are looking to do it between May 1st and September 30th as well. So, if anything, I think it also makes sense to, if this is ultimately going to be state law, to try to mirror the state. And then last, a big thing with these that I was also told by other mayors is enforcement. Who's gonna do the enforcement of these? And I asked, well, is it the building inspector, is it the police? In the villages I talked to, they have the police are enforcing it. And they said, it's not easy because especially they get a call, by the time the police get there, the contractors have moved on, whatever. It's not an easy law to enforce, but yes, Dan.
Did the mayor of Nyack also tell you the amount of service calls for the police, how much they go up for those calls? They get inundated with those calls. And you're gonna have the police department responding to a gas leaf blower. And it's gonna inundate them with calls, because I listen to the radio 24/7, and it's constant with leaf blower calls. So now our police department is gonna be taxed for leaf blower calls.
100%. I mean, and again, this is a discussion tonight.
Because once you put that law in place, the people in this village are gonna call the cops every minute that they can to get them out there to give somebody a ticket for a leaf blower. It's a waste of service.
It's certainly something to consider. There's no doubt.
You know what? Do me a favor, read the book Cobalt Red and see what it takes to make those batteries for those leaf blowers. That'll change your mind about the electric leaf blowers. And the other thing is they're not as effective as a gas blower.
Well,
I just don't want to see.
That's what I said. That's why they.
I just don't want to see our police department's time wasted on a leaf blower call when they could be doing other enforcement.
100%.
Because Charlie's not here on the weekends, so he can't enforce it.
Let's give out free rates to everybody. Everybody gets a free rate.
I gotta move out of this town, that's what I do. People are driving me nuts with this stuff.
I don't know, does anyone else have an opinion on?
I did have a thought. One of the issues that have been brought up by residents about instituting this type of law is that enforcement would be unfairly focused on residents because of the fact that the contractors are doing it as the last thing in their process before they leave. And so one thought I had was that it might make sense for us to create a registry of landscaping contractors and require them to come into the village and sign a receipt that acknowledged that they had a copy of whatever policy we implement, so that they would be aware of it, and it wouldn't be a matter of having to go and educate them that we have a law against this, and then you can take it, whether it's the police or the building department, whoever is enforcing.
They do that in Mason, by the way.
Oh, okay.
They go and contractors register.
Maybe it's something we can consider doing in parallel.
what they do in Hastings also is they fine, if they catch anybody, they fine both the contractor and the homeowner. $250 for the first time, $500 second time, $1,000 third time. Each.
Brenda said she would enforce it.
But again, so it's a matter of, timing in terms of, for the season only and enforcement. It's a problem, it's an issue. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts or.
Yeah. Just really quick, Jonathan Levy, resident, submitted an email to me. He lives at 99 Orchard Terrace. He's out of town, but he wanted to go on record that he is in support of banning the gas-powered leaf blowers, and he stated several reasons. Some of them, the air pollution, and the gas in the air, and all the debris. So he mentioned that, and then I also had forwarded to the board, Thomas Hughes had sent us an email on the proposed leaf blower regulations back in December. I forwarded to the board, and he also expressed concern for wanting to ban gas-powered leaf blowers, and sent that as well.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yes.
Regarding the New York State law you mentioned, did they, in your research, find anything about enforcement and what their plan of action was?
I don't think they've gotten that far, because it's only still in committee, they just re-upped the bills, because I think if they don't get a bill passed, I think it's 2 years or something, they have to re-up it. So I got a notification literally a week ago, that it was re-upped. The bill is being co-sponsored by 4 senators, they're all Democrats. But I think it's still in committee, so I don't think they've gotten that far. But that is an issue also. We do have some residents that own gas-powered leaf blowers as well. Kind of puts a little, constraint on them too. So I think we still have time, even if we want to do something this summer. The board needs to think about the issues involved. Some more, we certainly invite comments from the public, just send them over to Jennifer if anybody feels strongly one way or the other. It's certainly a trend. Personally, it would be better if the state were to do something as opposed to the local municipalities, who could also have a much bigger environmental impact and possibly give even more impetus to improve the electric blowers. But I think we should just continue this at the next meeting. Give time for people to think.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, as someone that does use a gas-powered leaf blower, I strongly urge the board not to, you mentioned, fine the homeowner, because what's likely for myself personally to happen is if a ban goes into effect, I'll just use a contractor to do my yard. You could extrapolate this to say if you're putting an extension on, they can't use power tools because it essentially falls under the same guidelines of the times being used. But you're not going to tell a contractor to not build your house with a power tool. And then if they do, I, as the homeowner, should get fined. I would strongly urge you to not go down that route because I have no control of what a contractor does with their time and their tools. And I just think that is ridiculous.
Fair.
Okay, good point.
Thank you.
Point taken. All right, so we'll continue this discussion, and again, we look for input from the community as well. Okay, item number 36, resolution authorizing the mayor to update employee letters of understanding for the calendar year 2025. And this is basically a letter of understanding, employee letter of understanding, kind of like a contract, employment contract. And this is for just the clerks?
No, the whole
Oh, right.
Yeah, the
DPW, building, right. Somebody want to make a motion authorizing me to do that?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Item 37, review authorization request from Rockland BOCES for the Tappan Zee Elementary, P-TECH, and Cabas students to use the Piermont Community Center as part of their emergency plans if evacuation is required. Chief Hurley, do you have any updates on this?
Mayor, I did speak with the director of security over at BOCES. This plan was utilized many years ago, the MOA has not been executed. He just learned of that recently, he took over. What they're looking to do is temporarily use this community center. They realize that the school district is now bigger than when the Orangetown School was there. There's more students there between the three, Cabas, P-TECH, and the BOCES.
Yeah.
So Tino through programs, they're looking at about 242 students and 100 teachers would have to evacuate if there was an emergency. And right now, they're considering using the community center temporarily. Some of my concerns were addressed with the disabled children, just making sure that they're able to get down that path into the community center. He did assure me that all of his students are mobile with one-on-one aid, so I think that they can safely get down. We have a plan in place. I spoke with the fire department as well and advised them that I would be comfortable as a temporary. I told them this should be something that's executed for maybe 6 months and then review it again to see where they are with their project. But I think we should give them the option. We did have an incident out there a few weeks ago that we did have to evacuate the school, so to have somewhere these children to go, especially in the cold weather, let's help them out this program. I am safe with saying we can utilize it with what they need and reassess this in 6 months.
So you recommend to the board that we
Thank you.
go through that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I'm sorry, so accept it for what period of an initial kind of?
Yeah, I would say the initial do 6 months. I wouldn't do a year. Just let them look into where they want to do primary because they're looking into busing and stuff. So we'll just reassess in 6 months. Just so they temporarily have something for that during cold weather.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I'll make it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. And this is for a 6-month time frame.
Starting.
Starting now, Chief? Starting now. Through the end,
Through the end of the school year.
through the end of June, yeah, through the end of the school year, yes.
Oh, yeah, you covered it. You said 6 months, and I was gonna say that the school year is 21 days. Yeah. Just give them some, but.
Okay. All right, so that's, I guess, I can propose, I would like to thank Kyle Weiss for filming us tonight. You know, that is something that we had talked about and just tried to do.
We can make it a thing.
We've never been able to get that. It's awesome that people can see this at home. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much.